Once again, it's time to ask the question, should I start a payroll company? I'm your host, John Mason Smith, JMS. Today we're asking Nate Pollak. He's the head of go-to-market strategy for EarnIn Payroll. Let's get started. How do you describe yourself? Like, I know who you are, and like I know how I describe you, but who are you
Me,
to
myself?
yourself? Yeah, who's Nate?
I'm a very optimistic, grind it out for results kind of guy. I get very passionate about the things I do, whether that be personal or professional. I obsess over what it's going to take to make it fun and to make it grow and to make it something that everyone is kind of looks at in a high regard. And particularly, I like to champion hard things. I never take the easy street. So, for example, a lot of people play the piano or the guitar. I do that, but heck, I picked up the accordion and taught myself. Not an easy instrument, right? And
Oh my God,
a lot
Nate,
of
we
people
could have the weirdest band. I play the ukulele, so we could just jam out together with the ukulele and accordion.
I tend to, I like to find humor and in even the most grim of circumstances. So I tend to bring, I think, a lot of just fun and whimsical attitude even to the business world, even to when we're selling complex, sophisticated stuff that has to do with compliance and people's money and making a difference in people's lives. You know, if you can remind yourself that you're here doing it with other people, you know, not just AI, you're here doing it. You can have a few laughs about it and stay positive and grind it out. It's a lot more fulfilling.
Well, not to immediately do a sidetrack, but like one of the things that's been really weird for me working remote with people over the internet is how much of the communication I've had with others where I can tell it's just AI now, where it's like, oh, they had this email auto drafted by AI. Because like, I'm pretty sure they didn't use 7 M dashes last time they emailed me. So it feels like you're more alone now, you know?
I rarely use AI to draft communication to anyone. I see it a lot more and more. There's a huge push, and I think for the right reasons, for the right roles, for the right duties. At EarnIn, particularly, we can develop product a lot faster. We can optimize certain roles to do more versus hire more sometimes. But in a business to business role, in a relationship driven type environment where you're delivering software where people are running their businesses on it, and it's inevitable in the software space, you're going to put out innovative new stuff. That's what we're doing. There's going to be a bug here and there, right? There's no new product that exists, especially something that's doing something different, where people aren't going to expose, even if it's not an actual software bug, it could be a workflow issue. I don't really like how this thing jives with the way I do my business, right? And what always I have found triumphs, people saying, oh, this product isn't what I thought it would be, or I'm not satisfied, but these are good people and they're working really hard to make it happen. And when they take my phone call or they respond to my email, I don't want a chat bot. I actually want to talk to Nate, and I wanted to make sure it's a genuine voice if it's an email. Like when we went to market with EarnIn Payroll, for example, we were getting pushed just because of where we operate, who our investors are, et cetera. A lot of AI tools for BDR, for business development resources. So outbound sales motions.
The Silicon Valley. More AI, please.
And so I demoed all the software and I just said, we're not in that game. If we were selling something transactional and we were trying to sell millions of whatever that thing is, millions of widgets or subscriptions or whatever, maybe that type of tool has a place. But I told our one sales rep, I said, if we're going to get conversations, I'm not even interested in making sales yet. I'm interested in learning and making conversations. Like, let's be genuine. Let's be ourselves. Let's tell them what we're about. And if they don't take our meeting now, they will eventually, because we're just going to keep being humans. And that's going to be a unique thing in this world.
It's a soapbox that I think I have been on many times. Like the thing that I didn't get when I started selling payroll software, because when I started in the mid-market and I was selling Paylocity, it was a lot of tech-focused sales. Like we were going in and say, our technology is better than this legacy technology of our competitors, and that's why you should switch from them to us, because you can do stuff in our software that your other software can't do. And the thing that I think I overlooked until I had to get into the operations side because when I started my own payroll company, now I was not just sales. I had to like stay after the fact and actually watch these clients be clients. Was just like, oh, no matter how pretty the front end, it's still like shooting a fax over to some person in Wisconsin, because like the local tax agencies are just run by like 3 people in a fax machine sometimes. So it's like, don't get me wrong, technology matters, but there's more to it than that. And we're still just using technology to talk to other people, right?
It's always funny when you're going to market and someone says, how are you different? So, well, we're better, we're newer, we've got all these things. And they'll say, well, that's great, but you haven't identified the need, and they may not have identified the need. And I find that's when you hit the sweet spot in selling, is the customer has on their own initiative internally figured out, shit, I need something different, or I need this thing that my software company is just not going to deliver on. And your timing is impeccable, that you have that thing that they need, and you are selling to them directly and developing a relationship behind that sale. It's not just a robot, particularly in the payroll space, because this is like the service bureaus, that's how they operate. They're winning business on integrity, relationships, delivering on these very sophisticated or not so sophisticated, but sometimes personal needs for these small businesses or large businesses. But payroll and benefits can be a very personal thing. And that's how they sell. And that's how they've built their business. And they're selling on reputation and referrals. Generally, that's like a recurring theme I hear, is most of our business comes through referrals, right? That means that they're doing something right with their relationships, that those relationships is actually what's building their business, not AI. Now, does
Wow.
AI have a place in all this? 100%. And they can augment that type of work. But at the end of the day, it's in this business, it's going to be, can you deliver when shit hits the fan? That could be the product that you sold me, or the product you sold me doesn't work. The service you're supposed to give me didn't meet my standard, or I'm in trouble with something and I need some.
Well, and Nate, there's a thing that I find really weird about you, in a good way. Don't take this the wrong way. You're weird in a few really fun ways to me. Like, one is, most people I meet that are in the payroll industry came from the payroll industry. Like it's somehow that became their whole identity. Is like, oh, I spent 25 years at ADP, and then whatever. But you're like almost an outsider in a sense, from what I understand, because you had all this restaurant stuff. We were just talking about your grilled cheese book like yesterday. Me and my wife were. So like, what? Can you talk about that? Like, what was your life prior to being sucked into this little corner of the world?
My life prior to this was, I spent almost, call it 6.5 years building a global real estate company, or restaurant infrastructure and robotics company. Now it's commonly known as Atoms. At the time, like ATOMS, like Bits and Atoms. And at the time it was called CloudKitchens, but we were the largest operator of off-premise. So that means non-traditional real estate, but off-premise restaurant and food service real estate. And those facilities were filled with all kinds of cool robots and software and infrastructure to enable restaurants to get to market faster. That could be anything from the world's largest food brands like Starbucks and Taco Bell, to a mom and pop burger shop that wants to do a delivery focused restaurant, or to very large scale commissary or catering providers like airport caterers, or meal prep companies, right? The folks that deliver prepackaged meals weekly to busy professionals or busy families, they need massive production space to make that type of food. So that's the world I operated in. Prior to that, I ran my own restaurant company, of which I franchised. I had several locations here in San Francisco. I literally was the grilled cheese guy. I sold grilled cheese for a living. My title was the Big Cheese. So,
And I have to ask, who did your payroll, by the way? You have to confess.
It's an
Who was it?
acronym. It's an acronym.
No. Anyone
ADP,
doesn't
run by ADP.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Now,
Okay.
to be honest, I ran the payrolls. I had 72 employees. I could handle it myself. And then I had a bookkeeper that post running the payroll would then extract the files, put it into QuickBooks. And she was a very good bookkeeper. She was my mother-in-law, so she kept it all honest.
Or unhonest in the best ways, right?
Yeah.
One or the other.
But I look back to those days. I did 13 years. I ran a restaurant company, and I sold it at a 40% ROI and was able to pay some money back to investors. That's a rare situation in the restaurant business, right? It's a business, even in the franchise side of it, that's ripe with failure. But I did well. And I think back to those days at CloudKitchens a couple of years ago. I'm a senior executive there. I'm running enterprise sales, and I'm innovating on these like super interesting delivery concepts for the world's largest food brands. And my day-to-day is basically rubbing shoulders with the world's largest restaurant brands and restaurant operators. For example, I bumped into and became a good friend of contact, but well, here's a guy that owns 2,000 restaurants, 400 Applebee's, 300 Taco Bell's, 14 Wendy's, and he's an investor in a couple of high-end Michelin concepts in the Bay Area or something like that, right? These are the types of folks I was working with, and we're working on super innovative solutions to bring them, custom built to suit physical infrastructure and software, point of sale type software, menu management, line management. So line is what you refer to where you cook in a kitchen. They call it the cooking line. So how do you manage all your food tickets coming in for the individual orders? So that type of software integrated into our platforms in these buildings, which involve robots and weights and sensors and things. So I was working with them on these innovative concepts so they could continue to grow their business in this ever-growing food delivery world.
I mean, is it fair to say like you're a entrepreneur that got dragged into tech? Because like I don't
Yes,
think most restaurant people become tech people.
This is what I'm getting at. In those moments when I'm like doing this innovative stuff and I'm meeting these really, really dynamic people who have their own interesting stories, I think back to like 7 years prior where I'm like making sandwiches for a living, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of sandwiches every day. And there's no shame in doing that. Right. And that it was a beautiful thing. There's a real labor of love in that. Every customer I served, I got to see them smile, right? Like that's a thing. And every staff member I hired and paid with ADP, you may not want to hear that, but we really took care of them. We were like a pioneer in paying above minimum wage in San Francisco, which was expensive. We were a pioneer in offering full benefits to our staff. So, you can sell grilled cheese and make a cool business out of it. We did, but I'm very entrepreneurial. I see a problem, I want to fix it. I see a target, I want to run at it. And if I see a need in the market, I want to go for it. And how did I stumble into payroll?
What did they do to like rope you into EarnIn? It's like such a left turn on paper.
So I had, at that point in time, I'd spent close to 20 years in the food service or food service adjacent industry. And I pretty much knew, with the exception of, working in the finest of dining where the food is put together with tweezers, I never had that experience. A lot of friends in that business, but I needed a break. That's all there was to it. I just said, what else is out there? I've built my own small business, which became a medium business. Then I joined CloudKitchens, which our CEO he's an entrepreneur that changed the world and our generation. The CEO in CloudKitchens is the former founder and CEO of a company called Uber. And I got to work alongside shoulders with him and scaling a business to be something global. Right. And I joined very early, but that was all in the food service space, food service adjacent. And I got there by sheer networking. You asked me, how did a restaurant guy get into this sort of like technology thing? Like just through my network, I was selling my restaurant. And in the process of selling it through like, a local M&A type business broker, I was doing some networking to my different folks with different folks that had served the restaurant. Because I said, I'm not going to open a restaurant for the next endeavor. Let me start reaching out to people in the payroll business, credit card processing, point of sale company, restaurant technology. And the CEO of a restaurant ordering app called Chow Now, his name was Chris. Chris said, you should talk to my buddy in LA. His name's Colby. He owns a bunch of restaurants, former tech guy. He is an investor and he's running sales at this startup called CloudKitchens. Have you heard of it? I said, oh yeah, I'm zero interest. I don't want to do anything with food delivery. That food delivery has changed my business. And I want you to put a thumbtack in this moment in the conversation. Change. That thing's changed my business for the worst. I hate food delivery. I used to serve people in person. No one comes in anymore. They just want to order on DoorDash. He said, Travis just made a big investment. I said, who's Travis? Okay, I'm not from the tech world. And if you're in Silicon Valley, or if you weren't living under a rock and you followed the tech world, you know that Travis was the founder of Uber that had at that moment in time had just left Uber prior to the IPO after some scandals and stuff. I loved working with Travis. Best experience of my life. But anyway, I said, who's Travis? And he explained, I said, oh, that guy. He said, just go to LA, take a meeting, see what they're doing. And so I went through the process and I was pretty inspired. And I was like, this is going to be big. This is going to be big.
I think the one continuity between every one of these companies out in LA and all these tech-based founders is they're all amazing salespeople, and they're all really good at getting other people excited about something they're excited about. So of course you go out and talk to clearly one of the best salespeople in the world, and you walk away sold, right? I mean,
Sold and
it's
inspired.
not that black and white.
I think inspired is the
Inspired,
better word. Yeah.
yeah.
So I earn in. At the time EarnIn approached me, I was starting to think about, I was at the top of my game at CloudKitchens. I loved what I was doing. I loved the people I was working with. I wasn't necessarily hunting for something new, but I started thinking about the next step. And I had a lot of personal changes in my life and saying, maybe I need to think about expanding beyond restaurants. In hindsight, I'll decide if that was the better idea 10 years from now, if that was the right move. But um, the CFO here at EarnIn, the whole company, not just EarnIn Payroll, the CFO was a former colleague of mine at CloudKitchens. He was the VP of finance there. And him and I had stayed in touch. I knew him before my time at CloudKitchens because he was one of my best customers at my restaurant, relationships.
Good thing he was hungry.
Yep.
Just
He
like
came in every day. He lived in the building above the restaurants. He said, listen, we EarnIn, which if for those that don't know, that might be tuning in, EarnIn is the leader, one of the leaders, if not the leader, in consumer financial wellness and earned wage access. We have a consumer direct-to-consumer application. The B2B business, we've taken some swings at it. It hasn't fully evolved as sort of, like a plug into a payroll or a benefits program, although we're making a ton of progress there right now. Massive partnership with Workday just announced for what it's worth. But he said, we acquired a payroll software about a year and a half ago. We're at the stage where we want to scale the business and we need a GM, go-to-market leader, someone that can take this thing and run with it. You'll get all the resources on that team to make this, like, we want to have 1 million employees on this payroll platform in 5 years. Like, we want to grow this thing. I had no effing clue what I was getting into. But he inspired me enough, right? And the offer was good. And I said, this sounds like an interesting challenge. I've never worked directly in a pure software role. I've never worked in financial software. I've never worked in compliance software. And I know it's a massive market, but I sure know a lot about payroll, not in the sort of operating a payroll company sense, but I was a small business owner. I ran my own payrolls. I also understood what EarnIn was offering because, and any small business owner, well, any business owner really, there wasn't a single payroll where an employee didn't approach me and said, I need an advance. Can you spot me $600?
So back when you were running your restaurants, were there early wage access providers, or was this before that became a whole industry?
No, I mean, I'll give you an idea. When I started my restaurant, the phone in my pocket was called an LG Envy. So I was inspired to come and grow a business again because that's what I like to do. You mentioned an entrepreneur in tech, like that's my thing. I like to grow business. I like to create relationships. I like to inspire other people. I didn't know a thing about the back end side of payroll. I didn't know about the payroll service bureau industry. I didn't know what a notcha file was until you told me. So because I took your course.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did. You made the course basically by making me realize it needed to exist.
What I did know is there was an opportunity to grow a new business at scale. We were starting small, but something that could scale across the whole country. Not a global thing like I was doing before, but a much different thing. I knew the competition was going to be fierce, and I like that. I like that challenge. And I also had never had this opportunity to sort of work directly with senior engineering and product leadership for pure software. My old job, the software side, I was more a stakeholder that the senior engineering and product people needed to listen to because I've sort of indirectly managed a lot of physical engineering and physical construction, call that product management or project management work, because we were in this world of massive real estate, and robotics, but less on the software side of it. So I thought this was a cool opportunity. And when I met the team, I was pretty inspired because the people here are innovators, and our CEO is among them, and he's backed by some of the best investors. And he had a similar story to mine, which was pay should be streamed, right? Like, this is a world where everything is on demand. Why isn't my pay on demand? I've earned it. It's there. It's my asset. right? The way
It's
we're paid.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like we're our own accounts receivable department when it comes to our wages. So if there's some sort of service that can make that a possibility for the American workforce at no risk or cost to the employer, that starts to become interesting. And so I was sold on the concept, inspired, and I joined EarnIn.
Inspired. A few things stand out to me hearing you tell this story. I mean, one is as someone who has done a lot of payroll and payroll sales and payroll operations, um, it's funny. Going from restaurant to payroll is like, I want to go from this stressful thing to this other thing that's completely stressful in another way, right? So it's a little bit of a lateral stress move. Although then again, I think every restaurant owner I've ever met has worked harder than I've ever worked. So maybe I can't say that.
It's funny that during the tougher moments here at EarnIn, sometimes I'll hear from one of my teammates like, man, I'm stressed. We got a lot going on. This is tough. The pressure's on. And I'm empathetic and we have a good conversation, but I usually walk away saying, you have no idea. You have no idea what pressure is. Not just from my past role building a global business, but I think back to being in a kitchen. Imagine feeling that stress and it's in real time because there's, hundreds of eyes on you in your kitchen and everything goes wrong.
There watching it.
Plus it's 106 degrees and there's grease and like the risk of physical injury is real, not just from the cooking equipment and the hot grease, but from another employee busting your teeth in because these things happen. These things happen and they have happened to me. So I know what that's like.
No, I was a busser at a restaurant for many years. I know the feeling.
So throw some drugs and alcohol in the mix. You get a much different type of stress. But
wow.
But no, everyone's level of stress and what they feel is all valid. It's just, you got to take everything in context of what you're actually trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my brain thinks about EarnIn. So when I was at TPG, I know you guys were there as a big sponsor and you guys had this crazy demo and all that. And for context, you mentioned continuous pay. I have, as you know, a history of doing stuff in the banking system very briefly back before Signature Bank had their failure.
Yeah.
When I was trying to figure out a solution to the problem on the employer side, which is like, why is it so hard to move money from the clients to the payroll company and then to the employees? And like, I think this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where the whole world is kind of held together with bubble gum and sticky tape. And you don't realize it until you like ask, wait, how does this happen? Oh, some guy takes a cassette tape to the IRS every night and they put it in a machine. Like, it's ridiculous. So I get the destination. My question is, what is it about EarnIn that made you think, okay, these are the ones that can get there? Because I feel like in the last 5 years, earned wage access has become like top of mind. Like it didn't exist anywhere, and now it's like literally everywhere I hear people talking about this product. So I guess the question is, what was the combination of things that made you say, "Oh, we're the ones to do it"?
We're the only ones venturing into payroll directly, right? Many of the other providers, and listen, these guys were at restaurant conferences too that I go to. I'd see Daily Pay there, for example, right? Or Rain, I think is another one, or Chime, where they offer similar products, but they're all offering it from the HR perspective. Here's a benefit we can put into your HCM suite or into your payroll software that you can offer your employees. EarnIn, like I want to be clear, I'm not an EWA guy. Okay, like I believe in what
You're a grilled
EarnIn's
cheese
doing.
guy.
I'm a grilled cheese guy. I'm a kitchens guy, but now I'm a payroll guy. So I'm payroll first, and we are building. You saw some of the demos. We're building new software. We're bringing something new to the payroll world that doesn't exist yet, which is, besides the modern interface and the UI and the very responsive and collaborative relationship with our licensees, we are building a payroll product that, because it incorporates earned wage access into the payroll flow of funds, the employer can offer a great experience to the product. The service bureau can ensure compliance to the product, and the employee can get paid when they need it. And because the employee can get paid when they need it, the employee, and this has actually been proven, well, take that as you will, it has been shown in 2 independent studies, one by Harvard, one by University of Oregon, that employees that use earned wage access products are more likely to show up to work. Their income increases by, I think, somewhere up to 14% monthly. They experience less overdraft fees, So their quality of life, you could say, is better. The quality of the employer's life is better because the employees are showing up at work more. The more they work, the more access they have to their wages.
Well,
And
I
but
mean,
what
I
about
always thought of
yeah?
it as it was pay advance management. Is what I always thought about when I was running my own payroll company and EWA came into my life. I was like, oh, I don't have to deal with pay advances anymore. Some other company's going to deal with that
And
for me. You
and
know?
and we get this a lot. Like, well, that sounds like a payday loan. It's a bad habit. It's like actually, there's no interest. There's no fees unless you want to get the money even faster. Within hours, you pay a small fee. We can stream the pay live onto a debit card. There's no hit to your credit whatsoever. If you can't pay us back because you lose your job or some other random event, you just can't use that thing anymore. Like you can't use the app, or if you're a payroll customer and your employee self-service, you just can't use it
Yeah.
until you pay
So if
us
you're
back
not
the
dinging these
$100.
employees, like if you're not dinging people with a bunch of fees, like where does your money come from in all this?
So you asked me, why did I join EarnIn, right? Like, so when I say first payroll, we're building an innovative payroll solution. And because, for any of the service bureaus listening, wink, wink, let me inspire you. Um, we pay you a revenue share of all those transactions that the end user uses. We believe that if you have a killer product with a happy employee and a happy employer, the payroll aspect should be free or far less expensive than everyone's paying today, from the service bureau to the employer. Now, where does the revenue come from? Why did I choose EarnIn? EarnIn, it's not public information, but I won't disclose our revenues on this call. But
I don't need the numbers.
the EWA business is sensationally healthy. We are a profitable company. I'm usually the guy that joins a company to help make them profitable. And in my role here, I own the P&L for the payroll business unit here at EarnIn. So I still have profitability on the mind, but the parent corporation, which is generating lots of money, I think we serve close to 1.5 active users on our Earned Wage Access app monthly, is a very healthy business, which told me that if we have a healthy business, cash flows are strong, there's going to be a lot of smart people here knowing what they're doing. We're well positioned in the market, albeit competitive. But if you are operating the business well, you can be very competitive and not burn through your cash, which typically happens in fintech startups, payroll startups. And you ask, where does the revenue come from? We do generate revenue off small fees. So you can get, on the Earned Wage Access side, you can get $100 at no fee delivered to your bank account in 24 hours advance in your check. But maybe you need to put gas in your car right at that moment, or or a spare tire change. You can pay, I think it's $3.99. I forget the pricing. Go to our
So there's
website, check it out.
like a
There's a
give
fee.
it to me right now, don't make me wait charge.
Right.
Yeah.
So we do charge what we call that lightning speed, and you can get that money right away. But there's no interest on that money, right? There's no hit to your credit on that money. It's not a compounding thing. It's a one-time transactional fee, and that's where the bulk of the revenue comes from. There's that, because of, and the nature of bank relationships and floats and things like this, there's other revenue streams, but that's key. Rate is minimal, right? Because we're dealing in small amounts, and we're using technology and even payroll now to really mitigate that risk of getting paid back, not just taking someone's word for it.
Well, I mean, you're hitting a lot of things that obviously fascinated me and inspired me to start some of my other side hustles back in the day. And one thing that's fascinated me is like the reason I think most financial institutions use the systems they use to move money around is because they're really, really cheap. I think like an ACH transaction is like 10 cents a lot of times or less, depending on the situation, versus moving money instantly. I had to pay
Whoever's paying
$25
10
for a
cents,
wire.
whoever's paying
Yeah.
10 cents, please tell them to talk to me.
Oh, wait, you do ACH now? Great.
We have just a side note. I got to
Yeah,
inspire
no,
you.
please inspire me.
We have an ACH partner, ACH bank, that we work with, because in our consumer side of the business, as I mentioned, there's 1.5 million transactional users.
Yeah.
That's a lot of ACH. So we have extremely low rates. Now we can resell those rates to our payroll customers.
Ooh, man. Well, and that's one of the things that I've always really enjoyed like talking to you about is the fact that again, you're not coming from the same path everyone else comes from when it comes to this. And like one thing I'm curious about is how long were you with ADP when you were running your restaurants? You mentioned
I
you
mean,
were doing
since
it
day
for a while
one.
and run.
I still
So is
remember.
that
I still remember reviewing the contracts I got from Hartford Group, ADP, and Paychex in like 2008, sitting up in in a dining room at my friend's house in Lake Tahoe. I was 25 years old. I was like, oh my God, I'm about to sign a big enterprise contract, for my small business. So I used ADP from 2008 all the way through 2022, as long as I had that business. Always ran our payrolls.
Um, this is a silly question, but like, I think a lot of the people I meet that have payroll companies now, they were not ever really users of another payroll company, leading to them in that position. Like they came from being in sales and then they decided to become an entrepreneur, or they came from being like a CPA or an accountant and kind of an operational backend, and maybe they were doing payroll in house and they had some light exposure to it. But you had a really long track record working with what I think many of the independent payroll providers would consider their mortal enemy. What did you think of ADP for those 10 years? Like, did you ever think about it, or was it like fine? Like, was this something that was ever a part of your day
It
that you had
was
to deal with?
it was fine. It was like a pair of underwear. Like you put it on every day and it works as long as it doesn't rip. Well, I mean, some people wear dirty and ripped up underwear, but it was just there every day. We didn't have any issues with it. Part of that, and I credit my mother-in-law on this one, but she was a very experienced former restaurant executive type bookkeeper. So she understood the restaurant business very well. And this was a side hustle for her. She had a small accounting practice, and we used different. So ADP was only for payroll. We didn't ask of ADP Run to do anything else but payroll, and obviously the back end tax filings behind it. That's all we asked ADP to do. We didn't go to the marketplace and find other products. Why? Because I had a point of sale system. That point of sale system was fine for time and attendance, right? It wasn't a very complex operation. In California, yeah, it's got overtime rules. We programmed those all in. We got a biweekly report and we imported that right into ADP. It wasn't all that hard, right? Every payroll system has that. Benefits administration, we didn't have as much enrollment as we would have liked. I think you tend to see that in the hourly industry, yeah, because there's turnover. But for those that had it, we didn't run it through ADP. My bookkeeper just ran it through our benefits administrator, who then produced a monthly report that could be uploaded into our QuickBooks. So the glue that held it all together actually wasn't software. I mean, today software would handle all this, but was the bookkeeper. And she was fantastic. And because she was family and I trusted her and she gave me a discounted rate, it was far better than any software that probably even exists today also. And that just made it work. It was the engine that worked. And so despite all these different softwares that were in our HCM suite, including some learning management tools we used, and we even used an applicant tracking system. That particular company has now gone very big, and they're a payroll provider as well. They're called a Workstream. They specialize in HCM for restaurants. And wonderful founder, CEO, really great guy. Anyway, we used all those things, and she was the glue that put it all together. So it was just good, a smart person that was doing great work for us.
I mean, so here's the question. If somebody that was licensing EarnIn Payroll were to send a sales rep to past you, like 2 years into your ADP Run experience, and they had the product you have now, and the answer can be no to this, but like, would there have been anything they could have said when knocking on your door to get you to say, oh, this thing that's working, I'm going to break? Or is it like, because like my experience it has been that there's active buyers and passive buyers. And the reason most people stick around with one vendor for a long time isn't because they're necessarily in love with that vendor. It's because it's working well enough and there's other shit that's more broken than the thing that I have with this vendor. So
it's a good question.
what would they have said? Like, would that have worked on you, like as a sales rep coming up to your door?
So a couple things. You're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. I always take sales rep calls because I want to hear their pitch. Even if I don't give a darn about what they're selling, I want to like hear what they have to say. So and
Sandler Training has a sign on their door. It says "No bad pitches," and I love it. Like it says "No bad solicitation."
Well, and when you own a restaurant, there's no office admin there's no gatekeeper, right? They can just walk in. And I did this when I was selling to restaurants. CloudKitchens. If you go into a restaurant and you buy their food, I used to tell my reps this at CloudKitchens: go to the restaurant, expense the meal, get something to eat, take a picture of it, send an email to the owner saying, I just ate at your restaurant. This food is incredible. Thank you so much. That owner is going to respond to you because you didn't do the thing that they hate, which is you didn't post something on Yelp or one of these things. They love that stuff. And now you have a relationship to sell off of. Say, I'm going to come in again. I want to tell you about this thing we're doing. So if the sales rep took that approach with me, I always took the pitch. If, to answer your question, how would they have bent my ear to go to the next conversation? At that point in time, price, that would have been a thing. I would have loved to save a few shekels on per employee per month payroll. But also, if they had the pitch down the story of, hey, do any employees ask you for an advance? We've got that built into our payroll system. It's going to help your employees show up to work more. They would have had me. Because the vein of every restaurant owner's existence, most small business owners in general, but restaurants, grocery, retail, you wake up every day, no matter how good your manager is or your team is, you wake up every day, could be the day of your wedding or the day of your grandfather's funeral, and you say, am I going to have to go to the restaurant today to fill in a shift? Am I going to have to go to one of my 4 restaurants today and fill in multiple shifts? So if I knew there was a payroll application with an employee portal that offered tools that ensured my employees were going to show up to work, damn right I would have listened.
So how many years was it that you were in the restaurant with ADP? You said like good 7 years? 13. 13. Okay. During those 13 years, I know someone knocked on your door to sell you payroll. All right.
A lot. Yeah.
Who did you say no to and why? Do you remember any of those people?
The good news is eventually, after 5 or 6 years, I got out of making the sandwiches every day, and I still have to do them sometimes. I got upgraded to dishwasher. No, I'm just kidding. But
nice.
I wasn't in the day-to-day operations of the stores every day. So I was much more back office. And so any of those types of solicitations that came in an email, I just automatic delete. So I didn't get exposed to it as much, but I definitely recall Zenefits coming in because they were down the street from us, which is now, I believe, Rippling or Gusto. They've become one of those companies.
Yeah, they got acquired by somebody.
And I remember, this is the weird thing, ADP reps coming in to sell me, not realizing I was already an ADP customer. So competing with their own company and undercutting their own sales reps. That happened once, and I got a lower price. So someone got fired because of that. That's what I assume. Paychecks came in, and Square, because we had different POS. Square eventually offered a payroll product, and so they were calling me all the time, right? So Square point of sale offered a payroll service. Yeah, that's what I do. I recall, and I wasn't that interested unless someone had something interesting to say. Or they bought the food, send me an email, and then tell me they were going to come in again, and I took that meeting.
When you were talking to someone who is doing as many things as you are, you kind of have to prioritize what's on fire right now. And it's like several industries in one way or another, whether directly running an operations versus starting something from the ground up. The question I'm thinking is if you had to start over tomorrow and you were 25 and you were about to launch another business or something, now that you know about the payroll industry, is that a space you'd want to go into? You can be honest. No is an acceptable answer to this.
There's a lot of businesses to go into. I think I would probably want to do something more ground up, meaning because payroll exists, right? So when you start a bureau, it's about the service and what you can offer within that service and what type of other HCM solutions you can offer. There's a consultative approach to it. I would do a payroll service bureau, but I would probably try to put a broader HCM spin on it. I know there's a lot of money to be made in insurance and benefits. There's a lot of fulfillment in that too, right? Like those things make a big difference in both employees and employers' lives, just as much earned wage access can. So would I consider it? Yes. Thinking back to 25-year-old Nate, grilled cheese was just fun, man. It just sounded cool. It sounds a little more fun than payroll, don't you think?
Well, that's the thing is every decision you've made that you've described to me was like, oh, I saw this really cool, amazing thing and I wanted to be a part of it. I don't think anyone really ever looks at payroll and goes, that's a cool, new, amazing, innovative thing. That's, it's a safe bet in terms of it's a boring business on paper, which is both a pro and a con for 25-year-old Nathan, I imagine,
Yeah, but I did have some experience in enterprise software so I was laid off in the Great Recession, 2008, from a management consulting job. And we primarily consulted on sales tooling I'm going to date myself, with Oracle CRM on demand, right? This is like old school. This is we would go head to head in sales conversations with Salesforce in the early days. So like, I kind of knew that world of, electronic records and relational database management, that type of thing. So it wasn't that I didn't know what I was getting into with payroll. Cause yeah, like you said, payroll's boring on paper. Everyone needs it. Not that exciting. It's just got to work. Right. But the earn in aspect is obviously what hooked me in. Cause to be honest, I didn't know I was going to be selling a back-end payroll software that is a legacy product that was owned by 15, resellers. That was like the whole story about how we got into this is a very interesting one. I didn't understand any of that. Right. You take a risk when you take a new job. I wanted to build something from the ground up that was hard, and I wanted it to be different than what I'd been doing before. And I think you and I spoke last week. You said how things are going, and I told you some of the challenges, which I believe we're finally overcoming. But we are migrating our service bureau's clients. I should say they migrating, but we're enabling them, their clients, to use our new employee self-service portal. So they're taking their clients off a legacy product that they've been on for 15 plus years and putting them in this new world of EarnIn Payroll. Okay. And that is, we've been working on this for months, almost a year now since I got here, basically, and we're finally making progress. Took a lot of trust building, took a lot of features, took a lot of testing to get it right. And this shit is hard and rewarding when you get it done. And so funny. My old company, CloudKitchens, Adams, whatever it's called, just did a huge fundraising round with Andreessen Horowitz, one of the biggest VCs in the world that's based here in Palo Alto. Andreessen's also an investor in EarnIn. So I got an invite to this party. I saw a lot of my old colleagues. It was very fun, but I saw my former CEO speak. And my current CEO was there as well. So it wasn't like, I wasn't...
wasn't too awkward, hopefully.
Yeah, it wasn't too awkward. But he said, because he got asked by the VC, why do you keep doing these huge problems? And he said, because that's what we do as entrepreneurs. If we want to change the world, and this guy has changed the world, you have to look at the hardest thing that nobody wants to do, or that people are insanely resistant to. Look at the things this guy had to fight to make Uber a thing. And everyone followed Uber. Uber was the first, right? Look at what he had to do there. And the things that company is up to now is incredible. So I go back to you have to have grit and determination and take on the hard things. And I'm taking on this hard thing right now by introducing something very new to a bunch of folks that have been doing something the same way for a generation plus.
The thing that's frustrating about payroll is it's been kind of static for a really long time. And, you spent 12 years on one system, presumably because nobody messed with it enough to break it. How do you disrupt enough to where someone says this is worth possibly breaking everything to get this amazing new thing?
He gave this, in this lecture I saw, there were all these examples of the world changing entrepreneurs over the past several hundred years, like the Industrial Revolution. And I forget, there's this famous story about, it was Carnegie and this other guy were the godfathers of the steel and the railroad industry, right? And there were all kinds of, in the Industrial Revolution, all kinds of disruptions because of what was happening. And workers were striking because they didn't want to adopt the new technology. But it was entrepreneurs going in. And there's some famous painting of one of these guys. He was shot in a sales meeting by an anarchist that was like, don't, the same thing going on with AI today. There's anarchists saying, don't do this. This is not a new story, right? Getting people to do something new and try something new has happened before. Another great example, they said there was this big debate when electricity was becoming available to the masses. I forget the two inventors. One was Edison, and Edison wanted DC, and the other guy wanted AC, alternating current versus direct current. AC won in the end, but Edison was so determined to win with direct current. One of the ways he would show investors and buyers is he would say that he would attack AC, saying alternating current is deadly. It's dangerous. And he would take live horses and he would electrocute them to death in his sales presentations.
Oh God.
Okay. Entrepreneurs, when they face something hard, they go at it hard. And so that's why this is kind of fun.
I think what you guys are doing it had me thinking like, oh my gosh, it sucks that I got out of doing payroll directly when I did, because there's like interesting things happening there again. And that hasn't been the case in a really long time. Uh, so I wanted to ask, Nate, is there anything that is going on in your world that you want to plug besides obviously EarnIn?
No, I want to plug EarnIn Payroll.
It?
And I know a lot of folks have wonderful payroll solutions, or they're very happy, or they're satisfied with what they have, and that's great. But if anyone wants to learn about what we're building, that's my plug. Like, just come learn about what we're doing. And it's important that we take some risks. I want to make a plug for taking some risks in our business to try new software, to try new things, because if you don't, you will be a dinosaur.
How do I find you, Nate? Like, what's the best way to get a hold of someone on your team? Do I just like call your cell phone?
My cell phone, email me, find me on LinkedIn. I'm very responsive, as you know.
Yeah. Well, I think I dumped you into the Payroll Launch Lab too. So maybe if they go there,
Great.
they'll find you in there somewhere.
Yeah,
Um,
and especially for anyone looking to start a bureau, and you've been really helpful with this, you can refer them to us. We're offering a huge sort of incentive, no strings attached investment. Well, some
nice.
strings attached investment in to start up your bureau, and 50,000 in license fee credits to use our software. The string attached is you got to use our software for an extended, a nice 10-year contract. But it's great software. It works. We've got close to 250,000 employees served by it, 12,000 employers, 13 and growing service bureaus using it now. So established bureaus. So
I'm excited to see what you guys do. I want to see more people investing in this space just broadly. So I'm a fan of everybody that's coming in and putting money into this space. And I will say, typically, when I talk to people that are starting payroll companies, the answer is, hey, my software vendor wants me to pay $50,000, not they want to pay me $50,000. So that's pretty wild to hear that you guys are doing that. Hopefully people take advantage of that before that opportunity goes away. But that's all I had, Nate. I really appreciate you letting me pick your brain
yeah,
for an hour here.
I can't wait to see the final product.
If you're trying to build, scale, or exit in the payroll or PEO world, go to johnmasonsmith.com.